So, as I understand, this topic is what the task which I have been assigned is to discuss on parasomnia's causes, classification, treatment strategies. This is a wide topic, and I hope I will be able to cover at least the major aspects of parasomnias in this next 30 minutes. And some of the topics I will not be able to cover, but I will give a brief overview of that. So this is a perspective of a clinician because, as you are aware, we are dealing with patients and with a uh, evaluation of from the modern medicine aspect. So, but there are significant attributes where the role of the yoga and naturopathy and all is significantly needed in all these disorders. So, if we start with the mythology, sleep in mythology and paintings, if you see the painting on the left, which is painting titled Mars and Venus in European Italian art in 1483, you can see that sleep has been described in various ages, and here Mars is in deep sleep, and these other divine beings are trying to wake him up. On the right side, there's a painting of Nightmare in 1781, where you can see a lady is in deep sleep, and there is a demon on her chest, and there is a dark animal which is lurking from one corner of the room. So this is just demonstrating that she in dreams, these are things which she is feeling. And going to our Indian mythology, we are aware of the Kumbhakarna and his sleep of 6 months, where lot of conjectures have been made by various people whether he had OSA and all. Dr. Ravi Gupta will highlight that aspect later. But we know that he used to eat and he used to sleep a lot, and see so many people and they was are trying to wake him up. But these are from mythological aspects. But in the modern times, sleep medicine has evolved drastically, and we know the biological basis of sleep now, and various studies have shown different disorders, what are the various aspects, which will be covered in the various talks today. So, sleep has been defined behaviorally as a reversible state of perceptual disengagement from and unresponsiveness to the environment. And it is a complex state in which changes occur in physiological and behavioral processes compared with wakefulness. So we know that uh, this is very important for the survival, and various studies have shown that it is needed for replenishing or recharging the day-to-day normal physiological activities, and it is necessary, it is reversible and cyclic. Just a second. So, human sleep, if we see this diagram, it just shows that prior to conception and after first year after birth till first age 1 year of age, we can see how the REM sleep is more in the initial part, and then the NREM sleep comes, and over time during till the death, the REM sleep goes on reducing, and the NREM also reduces, and wake time increases. So this is normal physiology of human sleep and aging, and there are four stages of sleep. Just to give the perspective of my talk, that NREM is stage one. People enter usually through NREM, N1 stage, then N2, N3, and in REM is the more a very important stage, which is highlighted here, that where there is which is active sleep, during which eye movements are there, and it is brain becomes more active during that stage. Dreams occur, eyes move rapidly during this phase. So, giving this short background, I would start with parasomnia. So, parasomnias represent a collection of undesirable physical events or experiences that occur during entry of sleep. So, while a person is entering into the sleep, that is the N1, or the timing of entry of sleep, or during the duration of sleep, or when the patient or person is getting up from sleep. So these are undesirable physical events or experiences, means the a normal people would not have it. And so then they are characterized into different types, and they can occur both in NREM as well as REM sleep. And this if we look at this overlap chart over here, we see the if we see wake N sleep and R sleep. N is NREM and R is REM. So between wake and N sleep, N parasomnias occur. That is NREM parasomnias. Between wake and sleep, REM sleep, REM parasomnias, and there is an intermediate stage of status dissociatus where the stages are not clear and the person, but these are pathological states which occur in serious medical conditions. So, NREM parasomnias, to just have a brief overview, they are more common in children. And in many cases, it may be difficult to determine what is the normal variant versus a true disorder. And most of for a layperson, we should understand that most of the NREM parasomnias in childhood often resolve over time with aging. And REM parasomnias may occur more commonly in adults. So, grossly, if we try to understand, NREM are more in children and usually resolved over time with aging. REM parasomnias are a little more serious predominantly. And if we look at the current classification of International Classification of Sleep Disorders, you can see that among all the major diagnostic sections for studying sleep medicine, insomnia, sleep-related breathing disorders, centered disorders of hypersomnolence, circadian rhythm disorders, parasomnias is a separate entity. And if we look at the parasomnias per se, which is the today's topic of interest, uh, if we see here, NREM are clubbed together: confusional arousal, sleepwalking, sleep-related eating disorders, sleep terrors, and then comes the REM, sleep behavior disorder, recurrent isolated sleep paralysis, and nightmare disorders. So four are NREM and three are REM. And then there are other parasomnias, which I will not be able to cover in this topic in detail because of the shortage of time. But I will briefly tell about exploding head syndrome, sleep-related hallucinations, sleep enuresis, etc. Dr. Anasuya, you can inform me if 5 minutes before my uh, time of completing this talk. Isolated symptoms and
Sure,
normal
sir.
variant. Right, thank you. Isolated symptoms and normal variants like sleep talking. So to begin with, we start with NREM parasomnias, which are four types: confusional arousal, sleepwalking, sleep terrors, and sleep-related eating disorder. And to understand that the common features which NREM parasomnias have are, as per the current diagnostic criteria, that there are recurrent episodes of incomplete awakenings, inappropriate or absent responses to others, limited or no associated cognition or dream imagery, and partial or complete amnesia. So, if we see that there are the awakenings are not complete, and there is either complete forgetfulness of the event or partial memory of the event, and this is not caused by any other substance abuse like alcoholism or any other drugs or any other medical disorder. So this is what are the gross features of the NREM parasomnias. And if we look at the prevalence, confusional arousals occur in around 20% of the children less than 5 years of age. So, and around 4 to 15% of adults. And sleepwalking up to 40% and peak in incidence between 4 to 8 years of age and adults almost 4%. Sleep terrors in 1 to 6% of prepubertal children, males are more commonly affected, and peak incidence is around 5 to 7 years old. So, as you can see from the data, mostly they occur in the first decade of life. And to see that 20% of children may be affected in confusion. So, it is almost like a growing process, and many of the with slight varied etiology. But usually, as mentioned earlier, the children outgrow this. So, what is the diagnostic criteria? But the important thing is that the episodes are overall they satisfy the earlier criteria, which I told about the NREM disorders of arousal. That there the memory of this may not be preserved or may be partially preserved. The
Next is
episodes are characterized by mental confusion or confused behavior that occurs when the patient is in bed, and there is no absence of terror, so that frightful or terrorizing component is missing. So there is no fear component. The child may just get up, appear confused for some time, look around here and there, and then again go to sleep. And there is absence of fearful or autonomic response like fast heartbeat, fast breathing, sweating. So these things may be absent in confusion or arousals. And the milder phenotype other than NREM parasomnias, this is more milder, and patient does not run here and there and just stays in bed, is not agitated, and as you know that this is prevalent in less than 5 years of age. Then recently another entity has been described, sexsomnia, where a sexual behavior like features can occur during sleep and have major consequences on the affected individual, bed partners, and this can have legal and forensic consequences. Then sleepwalking, this you people all must have heard about it. That this is again an REM disorder of arousal. So broadly, it qualifies for all the features there. And arousals are associated with ambulation, that the person starts moving around in the room or around various places, and other complex behaviors. So may get out of the bed, and certain complex activities like uh, can be performed. So here, if you see, this most important feature is that must involve leaving the bed. Often the individual remains calm and passive. Complex behaviors like unlocking doors, operating appliances can occur and may represent a safety risk, and may inappropriate behaviors like urinating in a corner, etc., are common. Sleep terrors are also follow the same features of NREM disorders of arousal, but they are associated with abrupt terror, frightening autonomic response, loud vocalization, scream, and there is intense fear and sign of autonomic arousal, including mydriasis, tachycardia, tachypnea, sweating. So all these are associated with this episode of sleep terror, and they often start with a piercing cry or scream, and there are feature of intense fear which is impossible to interrupt, and these events can last in 30 to 40 minutes also, although usually they are very brief, but this is less common than another NREM parasomnia. So if you see this, if you try to understand confusion arousal, so there are three stages: only arousal, non-agitated motor behavior, and distressed emotional. So confusion arousal is just simple arousal, looking confused, and with the duration 0 to 10 minutes it may last, but usually 0 to 2 3 minutes. Sleepwalking goes into non-agitated motor behavior, that is the person is doing complex activities. But sleep terror, in that it is distressed emotional, severe screaming and sweating and frightful behavior, and then there are mixed episodes. So these are features of NREM parasomnias. And there may be a familial tendency in these disorders. Usual triggers, apart from we have to understand, sleep deprivation is one. Circadian misalignment, that is the day-night maintenance of the normal sleep pattern is disturbed, and factors that increase sleep fragmentation, so multiple disturbances at night and in a smooth sleep, fever, travel or sleeping in unfamiliar surroundings, premenstrual period, and various medications listed here are the usual triggers. So how these have to be assessed is history and physical examination, family member accounts, and videos. Current Now we know that patients come with the home-based video recording on a mobile. If that is there, it is very helpful in diagnosis, and occasionally time synchronized video PSG is required, that is investigation in the lab. Events are atypical when events are atypical or hypersomnia is present or other disorders are suspected like epilepsy. So this is a typical when we record that in the N3 stage there is a awakening or abrupt arousal. So what are the differential diagnosis? Differential diagnosis is REM sleep behavior disorder, but usually in children we will not consider this. And sleep related epilepsy, malingering, alcohol intoxication, these are the differential diagnosis. These are just differences between the NREM parasomnias, and because many times these patients are given unnecessarily anti-epileptics and other medications considering that they have epilepsy, but investigation and careful history and video review will tell us that it is just NREM parasomnia sometimes, and just reassurance and mild and treatment would be enough rather than giving anti-epileptic drugs. So general treatment strategies for NREM parasomnias: avoidance of sleep deprivation. So this is very important, and for example in sleepwalking, Sleep on the bottom bunk or on the ground floor. Remove sharp furniture from the room. Secure guns and other weapons because complex activities are reported.
Dr.
Yes,
Ravi
yeah,
Yadav, Dr.
yeah.
Ravi Yadav, please, we missed your slides. Can you please share it once again?
Pardon? Hello?
We are not able to see your slides.
Or should I share again?
Yes, please share it once again.
Since when you are not able to see just
Just now, only to this present slide only.
now? Is it visible?
Yes,
Is it
yes,
visible now?
yes.
So
You're on
this I had
NRE and parasomnia.
discussed.
Yes, yes, it is.
Uh, yeah.
Yes, please
Yeah.
continue.
So safety measures like sleep on bottom bunk or the ground floor, remove sharp furniture from the room, secure guns and other weapons. So doors and windows should be locked carefully. There should be alarms at the door when there is a history that a patient is moving out while walking. Patient may injure himself, fall from the windows which are not secured properly, and especially in high risk situations like hotels, travels, and camping out in mountains. This has to be kept in mind by the partners. And other non-pharmacological treatments where yoga can play a significant role, and there is very less literature on that, but western literature says that scheduled awakenings, like useful if events occur at particular predictable time, for example 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock, so we ask the patient to get up or child to get up, and then this can be continued. Hypnosis, stress reduction, and other non-pharmacological treatments can be helpful. So these are the medical treatments, tricyclic antidepressants and all. I will not go into much detail. These are listed over here. Then sleep-related eating disorder is another NREM parasomnia, which is known as sleep eating, where the patient gets up at night and starts involuntary eating or drinking, which is manifested by weight gain, which is not explainable sometimes, and can have problematic consequences. The diagnostic criteria is mentioned over here, which highlights consumption of peculiar forms of combination of food, which are sometimes, because the patient is partially in sleep, he may eat the inedible substances, toxic substances, and binge eating can be done. He may go and cook in the kitchen during that time, he or she, and these are not better explained by any other sleep disorder. And there is partial or complete loss of conscious awareness during the eating episodes and subsequent impairment recall. It is supposed to, this is Western data again, 5% of college age adults have this disorder, and majority are females. And the significant clue is the weight gain. And eating is involuntary and out of control in these. And strange cat food, butter, raw eggs, sleep related injuries can occur during sleep related eating disorder. And the sleepwalking is one of the most common predisposing factor, and others are also listed. And medications like zolpidem also can precipitate that. It has to be assessed: evaluation, history, and physical examination. PSG not always needed, and video polysomnogram may reveal multiple confusional arousals. So these are the differential diagnosis of sleep-related eating disorder. And treatment is general protective measures: refrigerator locks, bedroom locks, remove knobs from the stove sometimes because the patient may try to cook in the kitchen, and discontinue potentially precipitating medications, and SSRI, topiramate, clonazepam, etc. are the medications. Now coming on to REM, how much time do I have, Dr. Anusuya? REM related parasomnias. So REM related parasomnias are undesired behaviors during REM sleep. And there are two distinctive features, that is dreaming and loss of muscle tone in REM sleep. So these are the most important things. So the three most important type of REM parasomnias are REM sleep behavior disorder, recurrent isolated sleep paralysis, and nightmare disorder. So we'll cover them one by one. REM sleep behavior disorder is slightly serious disorder in the sense that it is characterized by loss of REM related muscle activity. For a normal person, we should know that during REM sleep, the body, although there may be dream, which may be the person may be seeing a dream, but body is unable to move because the brain does not allow the muscles of the body to move during the REM sleep. So during the dreams, the person may be running or fighting, but in a normal person, the muscles body remains in a paralyzed state. But what happens in REM sleep behavior disorder is that because of the disease of the brain, the tone of the muscle comes back during these dreams. That leads to dream enactment behavior, violent dream enactment behavior, which can lead to self-injury or injury to the self or the to the bed partner. And this was described in 1986 in Dr. Schenk et al., who showed clearly that during the REM sleep, normally there should be muscle atonia. That is, there should not be any movement of the muscle or minimum movement. Here, there is drastic movement of the muscles leading to complex motor behavior. And in his one of the patients, you can see here, the person has tied himself to the bed, and here you can see that the patient is trying to move the hand, but I'll show you some videos also. And in the dreams, he's thinking that he's cutting a fruit. So this can be of two types, idiopathic or secondary, and it is seen increasingly in patients with Parkinson's disease, movement, and other degenerative disorders. That is, conditions where the brain cells are dying very fast. So the criteria for that is repeated episodes. You have to remember one more thing I would like to tell is that only one out of the separate episode, if we consider, is not considered any of the disorders which I have told, NREM parasomnia, REM parasomnia. Only when then repeated episodes occur, then they are classified as parasomnias or classified as disorders. So repeated episode of sleep-related vocalization, complex motor behaviors, which are documented by polysomnography, and we show through this examination in the lab that the muscle atonia is completely gone or it is significantly disturbed in these patients. So during REM sleep, you can see this criteria: sustained muscle activity should be shown in that, or excessive transient muscle phasic REM activity should be shown in the polysomnography to really diagnose these disorders. And polysomnography lab testing is required for confirmation of diagnosis. So just to show in this that in normal sleep, the motor neurons which are excited, which actually are responsible for moving the muscles, are inhibited by this part of the brain, that is sublateral dorsal nucleus, by GABA. So when the disease process affects this ventrolateral medulla, the inhibitory part is gone. So during the dream, from the brain, the direct circuits go to the motor neuron, and we see that the muscle activity is noted. And the same thing is shown over here. So if we see, alpha-synucleinopathies is a technical term given to all these disorders like Parkinson's disease, the dementia of Lewy bodies. So these are degenerative disorders, and currently there is no clear-cut treatment available for these disorders. So they are different. So sleep, RBD, REM sleep behavior disorder, is a aspect which is seen in all these disorders. And in this diagram also, we are trying to show the parts of the brain where the damage occurs, which leading to the loss. So atonia, normally it should be like this. During REM sleep, it should be flat. But in these patients, there is increased activity, tonic as well as phasic muscle activity, which is seen. Okay, now there can be pseudo RBD also, like patients who have obstructive sleep apneas and other conditions, medications, they can have pseudo RBD. So it is not right to diagnose them clear straight away REM sleep behavior disorder until we know that it is due to a medication or it is due to obstructive sleep apnea. And there is a condition that idiopathic RBD, where there is no other problem, no Parkinson's, nothing in a patient, but may have only nighttime nocturnal violent behavior and sleep related injuries. But it is known that idiopathic REM sleep disorder converts into Parkinson's disease many years later also. That is why it is considered as a premotor marker of a serious condition of the brain. So medications which are associated with REM sleep behavior disorder, these are the list of medications which can trigger the REM sleep behavior disorder. And as I told you, there is a lot of research on this topic, idiopathic RBD, because 70 to 90% of the patients 10 years, 20 years, or 50 years later tend to develop Parkinson's disease or Lewy body dementia or MSA. So that is why people are trying to find out the ways to protect the brain further so that these patients do not develop Parkinson's disease or other degenerative conditions by different applying different treatment options. So these are the prevalence in these serious brain conditions like Parkinson's disease, MSA, and DLB. So to classify it, idiopathic 80 to 90% develop alpha-synucleinopathy, and secondary RBD drug-induced and neurological disorders. So these can be treated by appropriately managing the or removing the drugs which are included. So these are the long list of drug disorders of the brain which can cause the REM sleep behavior disorder. And this is a video of one of our patient who in the lab we are testing with overnight polysomnography. So as you can see, these episodes are multiple episodes. That is why we tested in the lab, and we found that this is she can recall the dream, and there is dream enactment behavior. And if we see the polysomnography, these are the characteristic of REM sleep. We can see the rapid eye movement, and subsequently we find during the attack there is increased muscle tone and rapid, and patient is able to recall the dream that she was being attacked by someone. So these are other examples of polysomnography where we can show that chin EMG, especially if you see this lead, there is increased activity which should not have been there in REM sleep. And here also I am trying to demonstrate the same thing. Then in OSA patients, if you see, this is the patient with OSA, and here are you able to see the video?
Yes, sir, we are able to see
Okay.
that, sir.
So the patient is having dream enactment behavior. Just a second. Trying to do dream enactment, but patient actually has obstructive sleep apnea. This is just to show that these dream enactment behavior is not directly only seen in RPT. So this is secondary due to OSA. So if we treat OSA, this will go away. Then these are other videos of patients in a lab which are proven to be Parkinson's patients with RBD. And these are in the published literature. In this patient, if we see that patient is having a movement like he's running, and in the right side also he's trying to attack someone. So ideally there should not be any movement during REM sleep, but here he is trying to hit. And motor signature of RBD, there is a movement of during sleep which is like this. So there is a wrist drop, if you can see over here, which appears, and this is said to be a motor signature of RBD as proposed by Arnulf et al. So these are the various. So not only does REM sleep behavior disorder is a risk factor for Parkinson's disease. Within Parkinson's disease, those who have REM sleep behavior disorder have been found to have more severe phenotype, more constipation, depression, autonomic dysfunction, and chances of early death. So this has been the evidence as per the research papers. They also have more chance of having dementia and vivid dreams, psychosis, behavioral problems in patients who have RBD. Treatment of RBD is bedroom safety precautions. Sharp objects should be removed from the bedroom. Padding may be applied to the bed and adjacent pieces of furniture. Sleeping in a sleeping bag may help assure patient safety. And drug-wise, melatonin and clonazepam has been recommended. And risk stratification, actually, if we look at here, the healthy lifestyle maintenance has been found to be useful. Exercise, yoga may have a role over here also in protecting the brain from the effect of the stress. Now, so this is just algorithm. When we suspect RBD, we apply the screening question. Yeah.
Sir, Sir, please complete it in
Okay,
5 minutes,
right.
5 more minutes around
Okay, okay.
approx.
So then there are other conditions, recurrent isolated sleep paralysis, where the patient has goes into hypnagogic or hypnopompic sleep paralysis, which may occur in this patient. But this is standalone entity. Then nightmare disorders, as compared to sleep terror, this occurs in REM sleep, and the main feature is that the dream recall is present. This is again more prevalent in children and usually subsides in early adolescence. So common triggers are stressful life events, medications, idiopathic and post-traumatic stress disorder. Elimination of offending medication or stressors are needed, and this diagram just shows what are the factors which can responsible for triggering the nightmare disorder and how is this treated. Image rehearsal therapy is one, because the dream content may the dream recall may actually cause a lot, and there may be fear of sleep also. So this is the other treatment options: nitrazepam, prazosin, which is given, a non-pharmacological cognitive behavioral therapy, hypnosis, and here again yoga may play an important role. So other parasomnias are listed here. I will not be able to go into detail because of shortage of time. Exploding head syndrome, sleep-related hallucinations which can occur while going to sleep or coming out of sleep, both hypnagogic and hypnopompic. Sleep enuresis, which is passing urine during the sleep, that occurs commonly in children, and it has to be assessed in detail. And the normal variants are sleep talking, which are not pathological. So with this, I conclude my talk. I thank to my collaborators and student at NIMHANS, Dr. Pramod Pal, Dr. Bindu Putti, and my students who have helped me in continuing my study in sleep medicine. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. A very elaborate explanation about this parasomnias, and especially the videos, which are given a very clear idea of what exactly the parasomnias and how do they visualize. Because these are very fortunate that we have seen it, the videos of your clinic and all. That is very nice, sir. And the only thing is, how much is the dependency on medications for these parasomnias? Like, as you said, certain lifestyle modifications so would help, but how much does will help, sir? That means parallelly we have to continue these medications. And is there any possibility of tapering those medications by including a good lifestyle, sir?
Yeah.
Please emphasize
So
on that, sir.
in the NREM parasomnias, there is a significant role, because in children, many times the parents come who are very much distressed if these episodes are repeating. So reassurance is important, and improving the quality of sleep. That is the disturbance. Current, you know very well that the current lifestyle uh, intervention or coming of smartphones and various noises which are occurring around, that may disturb this continuity of sleep. So that may be responsible in these particular group of people, and reassurances and maintaining the healthy lifestyle will help in many of these disorders. But we are unable to manage by these, then we have to go on to medications, and many times children outgrow them. But as compared to the REM parasomnias, where active intervention from in the form of tablets and may be required, because sleep-related injuries are more common in RBD, and they are part of the degenerative brain disease. So there, the both have to go hand in hand, medications as well as lifestyle changes. But there is a significant scope in idiopathic REM sleep behavior disorder, where which have not developed degenerative disorder but may develop 20-30 years later. So their healthy lifestyle, using antioxidants, sunlight exposure, vitamin D supplementation, and tea or these things, antioxidants, and exercise. So there has been found to be neuroprotective, and it can delay the onset of the degenerative disorder in old age. So these are REM parasomnias are a little more difficult to handle, because they commonly occur in elderly, except the nightmare disorder. So because post-traumatic stress disorder and various survivors of serious trauma during childhood or later also, they may continue to think about it. So that there actually many other therapies, non-pharmacological, have been found to have a.
Very nice. Thank you very much, sir, for explaining in detail all these things. It's a very, very explanatory session, concise and precise, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.